All right. Hi, everyone. I'm sorry this week has been crazy for our classes. I talked to the university, I think, 4 times after getting my COVID test yesterday, and they said that my exposure is actually minimal if it actually counts. So I am still going to have class online for the rest of the week, but you, if you came up within 6 feet of me, you probably don't have any exposure because they said mine was minimal because I keep a far distance from the student, from all students, and especially the student that had exposed me or whatever. So just looking ahead a little bit, we are starting week 5. So obviously we're not going to do in-class videos. So we're not going to deal with these videos. You don't have to watch them. We're not going to go through them. So you won't see them on the exam or anything. I did have a reading quiz due for the Anderson and Livney, Allen and Chang readings. I am not going to give that quiz. However, you will see questions about those readings on the exam. So please be sure that you are keeping up with the readings. At least you don't have to worry about the videos. Um, we are moving forward, and on the 18th, I'm going to give your first participation grade. I'm going to base it on, the couple classes that we had in person. So please be aware of that. We haven't been in class since the 4th, and that's because last week we did the non instruction day on Thursday, and Tuesday we just watched the video. So I said watch it at home. And then this week I'm home quarantining. So it'll just be on the couple weeks that we have been there. Looking forward to next week, Tuesday. Um, Typically on days that we have or weeks that we have a position paper due, I like to give you one class period to not come into class, just to work on that position paper. So we will not meet on Tuesday, the 23rd, but please work on that position paper. That is what that time is for. If I don't have it in the Dropbox by Friday, February 26th, so the end of next week, by 11:59 p.m., you will not. Um, I believe there is a late period. Let me pull up something. Give me a second. Okay. So they can be submitted late. So if you don't have it in by Friday, every consecutive day will be a 10% deduction. So if it is turned in at 12:01 on Saturday morning, so just 2 minutes after the deadline, it's a 10% deduction, right? This is why I give you this time. Please use that time accordingly because that's why we don't meet for class. You do have to take one side or the other, and these papers are only supposed to be 3 to 4 pages. You should not need to find outside sources. You should only use the things that we have covered in class. Okay? So that's all I have for schedule coming up. Now I'm going to get into the slides that we're going to cover. And this is just going to be one video. We are not going to, I'm not going to make a video for today and then one for Thursday as well. I'm just going to do it all right now. So let's see. Share screen. Okay, cool. So you can still see me, you can still see this. Um, so this is the Anderson and Livney article from 2018. So let's start with Facebook and social media's agenda, right? The first being connect the world. So the more money, or wait, the more connected you are, the more money that Facebook makes by selling information. And this gives them a lot of power because they have a lot of information that they're able to share because we're all connected via social media, Facebook. Twitter, Instagram, all of those. Okay. And they're selling our information to big data companies. And then that information is then being targeted towards advertising, like we talked about last week, and s- basically sold back to what do you call that? Facebook. So we get targeted ads. Okay. But with personalizing your experiences, it's not just these targeted ads that we're talking about, but news and these ads can really alter reality. So, as a young adult, we're still trying to figure ourselves out. Having targeted videos, such as news videos, such as ads, all of these things that we think you might like this, we think you might know this person. They can alter who the person is or who they're trying to become because Facebook has used every piece of information possible and personalized your experience on the apps. Okay. And this can potentially make some decisions for you that maybe you didn't even realize. So, this personal experience, it's kind of shady. It can help you connect with people and organizations that you care about. So they suggest friends, pages, organizations that you might like. And while this is kind of nice and handy that they're doing the hard work for you, it's really so you spend more time on Facebook. You spend more time providing more data and making them more money because they're doing the hard work for you so you can just spend more time with them. And then finally, terms and service are just a small part of their story. Half of the time, we don't even read the terms and services. I know in our class, we talked about a couple students who did, but in order to actually understand it, you have to understand their privacy and data policies, which I'll get into on the next slide. Okay, so this is different than the agenda. These are the privacy and data policies. So make sure you can keep these two separate. Okay, so they don't sell your personal information. Technically, they do collect so much data on you and they can provide these basic demographic information about you to your advertisers and organizations. And then the ads that um, the ads are these companies are then able to advertise on Facebook. And the ads that were successful in your six, which then these ads become successful in purchases and time spent looking at these ads, right? So they don't sell your personal information technically. It is very, it is very gray, gray area. Um, there's a lot of shady stuff going on. Okay. Changing settings doesn't actually stop your data collection. So you can opt out of targeted ads, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're in the clear. All the data that you have provided previously is still going to be in the system. So even if you delete your account, although it's a good idea to opt out of the targeted ads so you're not unnecessarily providing information to partners, it doesn't mean that you're in the clear based on what you've already provided. Okay. Data is collected even when you're not on Facebook. So information can be collected about you even if you aren't logged in. So if you have shared something even years ago when someone likes it or comments on it, they can still collect data from you. So this is what's so funny about the like on this day feature on Facebook. Everybody thinks it's so nice to get a memory. Um and something shared, but really it's their way of bringing back stuff so they can collect more data on you because you might reshare that. You might have somebody recomment on it. Uh, data collection is, or data is collected about your spending habits and financial situation. So think about if you use Facebook Pay, if you have debit or credit cards saved in your cloud, they're collecting that information when you purchase things that you've seen an ad via Facebook. So we have to be careful about this because not only are they collecting your financial information, such as debit and credit card numbers, but they're collecting information on your financial situation and your spending habits as well. Others can give information about you. This is similar to the posts, likes, and shares. That information, whether it's something you've shared or they've shared, can still be shared about you. And then Facebook collects information from your devices. So wherever you have an account, your iCloud email can usually provide data to um, your Facebook if you use the same email. If you have Facebook on your phone, on an iPad, on your computer, on whatever, they can collect information from all of those devices. So you need to be really careful about where you log in and what you have stored on each computer. Okay. So the Allen and Chang article. Um, With everything and everyone basically being online right now, health insurance companies are tracking your every move to calculate premiums. So that's where we're going to start as health insurance companies. Things such as name changes, relationship statuses, um, marriages are ways in which these health insurance companies are using algorithms to determine how much you'd pay for health insurance. So if you're newly engaged or newly married, the algorithm calculates premiums for future pending pregnancies. And this is also true if you've been recently divorced. Um, your Facebook login and binge watching information can also lead to health insurance premium pricing. If you're spending a majority of your time on social media or you have spent a lot of time binge watching your favorite show, you might have a higher premium because you're spending less time exercising or doing healthy habits. So, I would have asked the question, what do y'all think of this? Is this fair? And we can talk about this when we're back in person, but is this something that's fair that they do? Okay. Um, So, with advertising, it's actually illegal to deny coverage based on health status or pre existing condition due to the Affordable Care Act. But there are tactics that these companies do use to get away with it. So, for example, there are several places that put their offices on the third floor with no elevator and only advertising at rigorous activities. So, their office is on a floor where you have to walk up to it. You don't have an elevator, that's going to deter people right there, but it's also, let's advertise at a dancing class or a an aerobics course. Okay. This allows companies to follow the guidelines and laws while they're still able to cherry pick clientele based on what you do in an online setting. Okay. So we see this nice little Facebook and Cambridge analytical scandal and this nice little flow chart. We're going to see it on two separate pages, but basically, users' information was exposed by Facebook. So 87 million Facebook users had their information, and it was sent to Cambridge Analytical. Cambridge Analytical actually worked on the Trump campaign, and this is why we heard a lot about how Facebook and Russia and all this stuff with the Trump campaign won him that first election and all that, and blah, 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 whatever. I mean, it's not whatever, but there's a lot more in depth. So, with this next slide, we're going to talk about how this really impacts and was the main point of the chain article. All right. So 87 million people's data was taken from Facebook um, and sent to Cambridge Analytical, which is a political consulting firm whose work is done by SCL Group. This group works for governments, politicians, militaries all across the world, not just the United States. So your information posted, both personal and financial, was taken. And the VP, Steve Bannon, convinced the conservative mega donors like Rebecca and Robert Mercer. So Steve Bannon convinced Rebecca and Robert Mercer, and they're conservative mega donors because they donate large amounts of money to conservative programs, politicians, and political things. Okay. So this puts a political bias into the consulting firm. Steve Bannon also introduced so they funded the Cambridge Analytical. And Steve Bannon also introduced the Cambridge Analytical to the Trump campaign. So the bias from the political mega donors infiltrated the CSCL group who worked on the Trump campaign. And this caused quite the scandal. So, why is this a problem? Well, because the people whose job it was to protect your privacy, your data, there's always this issue where they're at odds with marketing teams as to set Facebook up to make more money. And this article states that it's always going to be an uphill battle to protect your privacy and data because selling it, even just demographics for advertising, makes Facebook money. However, it does lead to political scandals where presidential candidates could forge ahead in the race based on mega donors and your personal information. And that's kind of a scandal. Not kind of, it's a big scandal. Also, there's Mark Zuckerberg trying to drink water. All right. So we've got a couple more articles we're gonna get through. There's four more. The first is Hamblin, and this is all about clickbait. So what is clickbait? It's defined as content whose purpose is to attract attention and encourage visitors to click on specific links or articles. So this is advertisements and they can be targeted to us. And Smith refers to clickbait as the same tactics and antics that TV used back in the day with don't touch that dial because they wanted you to stick around so they could hook you for the rest of the program. Okay. Web services such as BuzzFeed um, end articles with cliffhangers when certain shows will release the next season on Netflix or quizzes that are always that clickbait. They're very often used. We often click on these articles to find out information about some of our favorite topics, only to leave us wanting more, and it keeps us coming back. So, services like BuzzFeed typically don't know when shows are going to release or their next season or information before any other source. They report on it when the rest of the web services do, but they make you come back because they offer fun quizzes, and these quizzes can be designed to draw you in with headlines such as, I bet we can guess where you're from based on these words. I took one the other day and it um, asked specific words like, what do I call a pop, a water fountain, how I say crayon, um, how I address large groups of people, y'all, you guys, whatever. And it actually said Toledo, which was clearly incorrect, but I still took it because there was a high chance it was incorrect, but I was drawn in. Okay. So clickbait is all about drawing you in and leaving you for cliffhangers. All right. Clickbait is definitely annoying, but it works. So why does it work? There is an emotional aspect and judgment we make in our everyday daily choices as well as in our laziness. And these headlines are grabbing because they trigger emotions and we're also lazy. Um, we're lazy individuals, so clickbait headlines allow us to gain interest without thinking too much. We want to do the least amount of work for the greatest output possible. Okay? So also with emotion, we have emotional arousal. So this is the degree to which we have a physical response to emotion. Um, that drives clickbait titles home. We often get angry when we read titles and we have to stop to see the article or video. Negative emotions such as sadness or anger lead themselves nicely or lend themselves nicely to clickbait articles. And this is because it fires us up to take action. Okay. This could be as simple as reading the article and then we start um, hate reading or hate watching information about the article, right? So we see that topic, the Kardashians, people love to hate watch because we watch it, but we hate the Kardashians, right? So we continue doing that. The anxiety, inspiration, excitement, surprise are all emotions that the clickbait really relies on. And studies have found that viewing or skewing, not viewing, to one extreme, either extremely negative or extremely positive, will receive the most clicks. If you fall somewhere in the middle, it's not really going to receive a lot of clicks. Curiosities. Headlines that lead to curiosities are going to gain more clicks. So things that you might not have known or might not have interest in will gain your attention as well, along with curiosities. Numbers and lists also gain your curiosities, but why? Because they stick out in I cannot talk today. They stick out in headlines. So we tend to gravitate towards these titles, but they also help us to understand how long the article is, probably going to be, and they organize things spatially for us. So this reverts us back to the laziness part. Our brains don't want to have to do more work than it has to. And we also focus on the possibility of a payout. So, how many of you have clicked on a Facebook link, 10 ways to do whatever, or a recipe on Facebook where we have to scroll through 15 pages for this payout? We wait for it because we want to learn how to do whatever, or we scroll through some woman's journey about how she grew up poor and she just loved cooking with her grandma. She got interested in making Oreo balls and desserts because we want that recipe. I want to know the recipe that I just read or had to scroll through 15 pages. I want that recipe, right? So our curiosities are piqued from these titles. And because journalists, writers, and researchers know what to say to get you to click on their article, right? So this free beer, oh, excuse me, is a clickbait article, but in real life. You often see it outside of a bar where it says free beer, but under free says Wi Fi, and above beer says good, right? But they're so small, we focus on free beer. All right, next is the Moritz article. The Moritz article was all about applying what we learned in the last reading and making the experience better. So I'm not really going to cover it, but just know that there are those ways in which, like, adding videos, adding graphics, those increase readership of clickbait articles. And finally, Chew 2016. So clicks plus likes plus views equal money. Why do articles that are generated on Facebook, whether you like in the organization or not, show the likes on it? These articles show how many people liked it, how many people shared it, and it will even show the name of someone you know who has liked it. But why? Because it gains the interest from you and can increase the number of clicks, views, and likes. This in turn makes the company money and creates social value, especially if the post has thousands of millions of likes and shares. So this equation is really important because it's telling you, oh, so and so liked this. So many other people have liked this, and that's going to draw you in. However, thousands of posts are being made on Facebook every minute. So why do we keep clicking on them? We often become desensitized to the same post every time we log into Facebook or other social medias. So companies are upping the ante and providing more details or more emotion to the title to get people into the clicking mood. When we constantly see the same things over social media, we get bored with it. However, with companies upping the emotional charge in the title or post, it gets our interests repeat. Okay. So, out of these two titles right here, which do you think is more grabbing and which would you actually click on? It says, Inside the failing mission to save Donald Trump from himself, Donald Trump, untamed and growing sullen, lets his tongue barge ahead. Well, this was a testing title to see what would be more grabbing, and in turn, both of them didn't seem grabbing enough, so they just combined the two titles to make a new headline. But why is this dangerous? Because it is. It's dangerous because there aren't any journalistic integrities anymore, and therefore the titles can say anything because we don't take the time to focus on integrity of journalists anymore. We don't take the time to look up their backgrounds. And this isn't to say that it's the journalists or that journalism is a dying profession because it isn't, but we don't hold journalists to the same standards that we used to when print media and online news media first came around or were the only way to get our medias. Okay? So, we talked about economics of social media and big data, and we talked about economics of social media in clickbait. Um, I will get this posted and I'll send it out to you. Make sure you are working on your paper. I really don't want to have to take deductions for being late. You also only get 3 consecutive days if a paper is late. So You have to have it emailed to me or whatever by, let's do Friday, so Saturday, Sunday, by Monday at 11:59, or I won't accept it anymore. Um, and just make sure you're staying healthy. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns about the video or about COVID, reach out. I will help you in any way that I can. Um, Obviously, content wise, I know more about that, but any way I can to get you where you need to be to inform the specific people you need to for COVID. Okay. So have a wonderful afternoon, and I will see you next Thursday. So a week and a half from today. Okay. Bye.